Yes.
Yes, my brother.
We made
at
it,
last.
bro.
Yeah.
You made it. It's been a while in the making. Let's not lie.
For real.
It's been bubbling away for a while, but we have finally made it to the Rum and Reasoning podcast.
You know.
This is a podcast for the man them.
Mm-hmm.
You with me? Don't get me wrong, ladies, you can tune in too.
No, it's definitely for the Gallum as well.
But
primarily.
Yeah,
we're
going to be talking all things men as two fairly seasoned men. There's a few, there's a bit of salt and pepper in there, so you can tell there's a bit of maturity there. I saw it in yours today. First I see a little bit of salt.
I've been holding out.
So these are some of the things.
Yeah.
At least you didn't put the little dye in it. You with me? You let it come true. You get me? Which is all good.
Yeah.
All good. And if you do, if that's your thing, all good.
We could talk about that aging and stuff. It's a blessing. Yeah.
We're gonna be here talking about things that affect us as men.
Yeah.
But
why Rum and Reasoning, bro? Why? For me, it's a different perspective, right? There's a lot of content out there, but I think where there is a bit of a glut is, just like a different perspective. Yeah, and I think
when you say different, what do you mean?
I think I don't want to say mature, but yeah, I will say just mature. Just without the kind of hype, just just real locker room barbershop talk, but coming from a different perspective.
Say like we used to do. The reason why we've gone Rum and Reasoning is because how I used to remember like my granddad.
Yeah.
And then when the money were reasoning, they were doing it with a bottle of rum. So every episode, not to say that we're alcoholics or anything, yeah.
Más o menos.
We're gonna have a bottle of rum. So this one, I should really be giving this to you to introduce because I'm the Jamaican, you're the Bajan. You get me? So you take this one. It's a Bajan rum.
It is actually my favorite, and it is the rum that I brought to the studio today.
Cool.
This is actually what we're drinking, and this is 4 Square rum. Yeah, it's beautiful, man. It's a spice rum.
Vanilla.
It's got a lot of vanilla in it. You can really taste it. There's some hints of cinnamon in that as well. So if you're an avid rum drinker, if you like spice rum, this is going to be like spice rum times 1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
where can you get this? Because you can't get this in your local shop. So where did you get it? This is what
I was going to say. This is, if you're a rum connoisseur, you probably got this in your collection already.
Cool.
But if you are trying to get this online, you'll be able to get through. You're not going to find it in the average shop. If you go to somewhere that specializes in rums,
okay,
probably down Central or maybe one of them kind of obscure ones in the hood where they've got a really, really good collection, then you might get it. But yeah, this is 4 Square. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're someone who, likes a little bit of flavor, ladies will like this as well. It's just beautiful, man. Try it. Check it out. 4 Square.
All right, let me hold on to this.
Well, don't hold on too much today.
Yeah, no, I might have to sneak this one home. Let me keep it on my side. Yeah, 4 Square rum. This is the first time I'm tasting it still, and you with me? We've always got we see. Listen, let me establish this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris and I have been friends since we were 10. That's 30 years. Yeah, and it's 30 years, bro. It's 30 years.
Yeah,
I'm realizing how old they are.
Yeah,
you get me? For 30 years. For so the Jamaica, Barbados.
Yeah, it's been going on for a minute.
It's been going on for a while, but
yeah.
I'm gonna have to make a confession here,
Go on.
And I may lose my Jamaica card for this one.
Bajan's make the best rum, 100%.
I never said it. I'm just gonna nod.
Yeah. It's just reality, isn't it?
I'm just gonna nod.
It's reality.
But you know what? We can put it to the test because every single week.
Well, you know what it goes.
We're gonna be dropping a different rum. You with me?
We'll see it.
I do love a Bajan rum.
Yeah. I got some something to come from Venezuela and that as well.
Yeah.
And a nice Cuban. So when we get to that, we'll get to it. But for now, we're starting with the original 4 Square, the home rum, the home team. Know what time it is? 4 Square. Check it out, people.
Wicked.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. It's our first episode, and the first topic I think is something we're gonna have to address. It's important, it's impactful. It's around the topic of men's mental health. Now, you say that in your introduction, you're saying, kind of big man topics. And I'm not gonna say I haven't, but I don't remember hearing many podcasts talk about men's mental health. I hear a lot about relationships. I hear a lot about making money. But being that men, if you look at the statistics around kind of suicide, if you look at the statistics around mental health admissions, men are significantly more impacted by mental health than women are.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking at kind of men from certain demographics, if you look at the black community, we are exponentially more impacted by mental health being sectioned and so on and so forth. But where there seems to be this kind of tipping point in regards to especially men and mental health, it's around adolescence. It's around adolescence where the diagnosis of mental health really begins to become cemented.
Yeah.
And something that we've spoken about for a long time as well is that transition from boyhood.
Yeah, we've had a few conversations about that offline. Yeah.
Yeah, from boyhood to manhood.
Yeah.
And that's something really I wanted to speak about, especially as two men have grown up, we know each other.
Yeah.
And our sons are of a similar age as well.
Yeah.
So we're watching it in, I think the kids say 4K, in real life happening.
Yeah.
From the transition from a young man or a boy into a man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So my question is, question I'd kind of pose is, why do you think in 2024 it is so challenging for young men to successfully make that transition?
I don't know, bro. I don't know. I mean, funny you bring this one up actually as a topic, because it was only recently that I watched, and I think I may even said this to you. I watched that documentary David Harewood. Yeah, I watched that. Yeah. And then afterwards, it kind of led me to reading his book as well. I think it's called Psychosis and Me, and it just talks about some of the experiences that he had, battling. It wasn't schizophrenia. What did he have? I can't remember anyway. Psychosis, obviously psychosis. But yeah, it talked about like his journey of kind of becoming an actor, and how just this conflict of race, back in the 80s, 90s, and him trying to learn his craft, coming down from Birmingham down to London, and the transition. He talks a lot about his youth and whatever. And it was, anyway, great book. Definitely recommend it. Recommend the documentary if you're not a big reader. But it took me back to something. It made me realize. It made me realize that we get so kind of wrapped up in our own bubbles. As going after it, whatever it is, work, career, entrepreneurship, what have you, where we kind of forget. And it really made me dig back into my experience, of kind of that transitional phase, right? Leaving school and, the different challenges and whatever, and, the crew that I kind of came up with and my friends or whatever. And I gotta be honest with you, bro, I forgot how hard it was. It's really a really challenging time,
What specifically, when you say how hard it was, what's the it? What is it? What is it that you found?
I mean,
during that transition, as you spoke about a very specific time, and I would say it's probably 16 to 25. You say 16 to 25 or 16 to kind of early 20s. What is it that you are saying is difficult?
I would say 16 to 25. For me personally, it was kind of 16 to 19, so it wasn't
as elongated,
as elongated as that. But speaking about mental health, I did as well myself. I suffered from a period of depression, which we could talk about as well. I mean, for me, it was faith that kind of got me out of that particular time or challenging time in my life. But yeah, it's hard, man. It's just hard. It's that whole speaking acutely from a black male perspective. Yeah, it's that whole challenge of school's done. Now you've got to do things, and it's just different for men, right? Unlike a lot of our female counterparts, we're a bit more accepted in society, especially if you're coming from the hood and you're young, so you're impressionable and you don't know there's a time for this and there's a time for that. You're still sagging your pants. You still want to, bun weed and whatever it is. You're still very child-minded, right? At 16, you're still a child, but society's saying to you that you're now an adult.
Yeah, you got to take responsibility.
You got to take responsibility.
And there's no longer the structure of school.
Yeah, and you got to get a job, or you've got to find your way. Maybe I know in our households there's not that much guidance when it comes to, and which you can probably speak to from your background on, kind of where you're going to go, what the pathways are into education, into work, and then you just have those kind of challenges of just feeling really kind of lost. I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting because even though we've had a lot of these conversations, I don't think we've really related to one another what our experiences were.
Although we went to school, and although we had similar, we have similar backgrounds. I think our stories are slightly different at that stage, because one of the things that I identify, and it is, I asked a young man, year 11, like last year at school. This week, I said to him, how many times do you get to interact or speak to a black man in a week? So I said to him, like, how many times will you interact? Now I know he's from a single parent home, an only child, lives with his mum. Yeah. So I said, like, outside of maybe, so he said, when I speak to you, I said, okay, outside of speaking to me,
what other big men are you dealing with?
That is it. What other big men are you talking to? And he said, like, he goes to
church.
No, not in church. He goes to like a youth thing once a week. He identified the guy, get to speak to him once. But outside of that,
no one in, no uncles, no uncles. No uncles.
He spoke about
no uncles, no granddads.
A partner. His mum had a partner who was very significant in his life. That person is no longer in his life anymore. Not great contact with his dad, knows his dad. There aren't a great amount of men who he's going to interact with on a weekly basis. So in regards to his guidance, someone who's going to guide him and show him what to do and how it goes, it's going to be limited. Now, where I think I was fortunate, and I've spoken about this several times, is, I know you probably won't remember, when I got to around year 10, my mum and dad weren't together, but I had to go down to my dad's every weekend. I had to go down there. And two of the most significant things are, when I'd go down there, is on a Saturday, we'd wake up, we'd go Brixton Market, I'd have to carry my stepmom's bags around, boom. Then after that, we'd go sauna. You heard me talk about sauna. To this, I still go sauna to this day. Me and my son will still go sauna. And that energy of the man.
That's where the conversation.
That's where the man them conversation starting. You with me? But what that gave me is, let's say, for example,
like an insight into the men's kind of sector.
and a broad aspect of men. So you might have had the guy who was a chippy. You with me? There's someone I'm thinking about.
Was this just black, or was there Greek man?
No, there was some Turkish guys, but on a Saturday afternoon,
more
generally it was the man them. It was a black man them. You had a man who was a chippy. You had the road man. You had the younger guy who was a bit of a wheeler dealer.
Jack the lad.
You had a guy who, that was his Saturday afternoon. He was a working man. You had a range of different types of black men. And whereas I tend to find now, and this kind of feeds into a conversation we were having off camera, the archetype of a black man is almost this, and I hate to say it, but speaking to the young people, this is what it is. This kind of top boy rapper, rude boy type image. Whereas I was exposed to that, but I was also exposed to the working man. I was also exposed to the tradesman. I was also exposed to older guys. So I remember there were big men in there. Them times, this is like, again, I said 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, a man who was getting ready to retire to go back to Jamaica. So I remember people built their house. And it's ready to go back. So
the few that made it,
talking about their pension. And so I was given age range and demographic range. Whereas I'm not as confident that you received that range on that frequency.
Well, the question I was really trying to relate to is, what were the challenges so much? So let me give you my version of that. For me, obviously, 2-parent household, whatever, everything was cool that way. I don't know whether I had so many different men around me other than my dad, and he was a little bit kind of just work and come home and do his thing or whatever, as a lot of our parents were, yeah. But I did feel, and reading this that David Harewood document book and the documentary took me back to it. I did kind of go through a period where I just kind of felt lost because, yeah, Top Boy, that was back then as well, and I was kind of caught between a rock and a hard place of thinking, all right, well, do I want to do the road thing, or do I want to, try and make something of myself, like going through the legit pathways? I dibbled and dabbled with that, and quite quickly, I would say, based on the age that we're talking about, I realized, nah, you know what,
let me ask you a
road thing's
question.
not for me so much.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. Let me caveat this. Yeah.
Go on.
Chris and I grew up a road apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, like the
Literally.
back in the days where, like,
Street.
Yeah, kind of Coronation Street thing. One road here, one road there. Yeah. That's how we went to school, road apart, so on and so forth. Why? And this is something that I've struggled with. And again, I have to think about my own privilege. Why would road even be an option?
I don't know. I think genuinely, in my case, and I think for many other young black men, it's just a normal seduction, right? In terms of the road guys are the ones at that early age who are going in, innit? Yeah, they got for our days, it was what they had, all of the designers, probably very, very similar today, if not identical.
Yeah.
They had access to cars.
Motorbikes.
They were raving. Motorbikes, obviously, where we're from, motorbikes and all that as well. They got the best girls, and they were just kind of had this kind of bravado and kind of imagery, this kind of smoke and mirrors about them that just made them cool. And me personally, I was very infatuated by that. I kind of messed up probably the back end of my schooling. Came good, but I messed up the back end of my schooling just being infatuated with that kind of lifestyle. It was very strong. The draw,
the pull was strong.
The pull was really strong for me. But again, I got away from that. But where the challenges came in for me was trying to go legit. I mean, it's tough, bruv. And this is the thing is, obviously, well, not obviously, but at this stage in my life, I'm fairly successful. I'm fairly stable, and I'm upwardly mobile. We're pushing, right?
Yeah.
Cool. We're nicking a living, but it was challenging, man, to get into the system. There's so many barriers as a young black man. You go on an interview, you're not akin yet to this whole code switching and how to talk. You can't really be yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we're not really that accepted.
Yeah.
Right? You go into interview as a young black man, speaking as young black men generally do.
Yeah.
You're
from
not
the inner city.
Yeah, because it takes a time to really kind of tweak in and understand, how to give that face, that black tax face.
So is that what you struggled with? The transition. So you say
I struggled with that plus being broke, if I'm being honest with you, yeah. That the struggle of seeing all my friends, all my peers who were on road, or who happened to be lucky enough to get a job, because I don't know, it just seemed like everyone around me had that golden touch, bro, and I didn't. So everyone's earning, everyone's in a position where they can go out and they can do something, and then I can't. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, a man might throw you a bone and you can go and buy a drawer or whatever it is. But in terms of being able to sustain yourself, and now you're what, 18, you've maybe had one or two spins at college and it ain't worked for you or whatever it is. That was my experience, for whatever reason. And then it was just like, whoa, like, this is difficult, man. Bro, seriously, I had a stage where I was just in my yard 24/7 because I was like, this is deep, bro.
It's like you were almost defeated.
Bro, I had a chair in my yard that had a indent in it because I was just sitting in that chair every day, just like, don't get me wrong, I make it sound like maybe a little bit worse than it was, because I was still going out with a man then when I was doing, but sometimes, and this is what mental illness is, right? Or mental health and whatever, people often don't know. I don't know if you've seen an advert in the cinema where it's there are two guys and they're in a football stadium, right? And one looks down, and the other guy's like cheering, and they're jumping up, and it goes through all the different matches.
And it's the one who's cheering.
And it's the one who's cheering the end, who's his seat's empty, and they're like, oh, make sure you keep an eye on your friends. So oftentimes, it's not things that you can see, right? Because even though I was out and I was still mingling or whatever, inside I was like, raw, like everybody else is getting on, right? But I'm still here. Do you know what I mean? It's been a couple of years now. School's gone. I haven't found my way in via the education route. I haven't found my way
on the streets thing.
The streets thing's out of the question now. But I haven't found my way on the education route. I haven't found my way economically because I can't get a job. I get a trial. Do you get me in a Marks and Spencers, or I get a trial in a shoe shop or whatever it is, but I don't make it past the probation. This time I'm a good youth. It's not like I'm in there and I'm taking out the till or whatever it is. Do you get where I'm coming from? So it was kind of like, it was hard.
You couldn't get a break.
Yeah, and then it kind of wears down on you, like mentally, where you think to yourself, like, rah, this is long. And for me, like, it got like proper intense. Obviously, well, not obviously, but I don't want to take up the whole thing with my personal story. But I got a break. I had a very spiritual experience. I rocketed up, and then everything just went up and up and up and up and up from there. And then I was able to do various different things. I bought a home at a very young age or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
But what this, in revisiting that period, and kind of like reflecting, what I realized is I looked around my peer group and I realized some of my friends, my proper bona fide friends from that period in my life are still there.
Yeah. Yes.
So when we're talking about the transition and how difficult it is, it's like, when I'm saying this, if for the guys and girls who are listening to this, who are around our kind of age group, that kind of early 40s, kind of maybe late 30s, I think a lot of people are going to identify with that.
Yeah.
Especially if you grew up in a city.
Yeah, because it's as you said, you used it. There was a point where you were able to kick on. You with me? And it wasn't like this. We'll talk about that afterwards. Because yours is a journey I always use with a lot of our young people. It wasn't like this. But if you were to do the line of best fit, there were ups and downs.
There was lots of ups and downs. But if you were looking from an external perspective, as many people do, you wouldn't see that. You would just see the gradual, oh, this is where you're living. Oh, this is what you're driving. Oh, this is what you're doing. Oh, this is how you're moving. Oh, this is what you're doing. Oh, it's your business. You would just see that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But you're right. There was some, as in any journey, there were some terrible lows and there were some amazing highs.
Yeah.
But the point that more got me, just because you're talking about this mental health thing, right, is that's how I felt at 17, 18. I've got friends that are still in the community and associates and just guys. Sometimes when I'm in the manor, I see a lot of guys and their eyes, they're dead behind their eyes, bro.
Yeah.
Do you get me? I know a lot of guys that are pulling trolleys.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Trolleys, going to do shopping, living at home with mum.
Yeah.
They're still in the same house, same situation. And it's not I'm not saying that from a judgmental place. I'm just saying that a lot of these people haven't been able to break through, to make those breakthroughs that says, all right, well, cool. Whether I'm working for myself or whether I'm in the system, I can get on economically.
Yeah.
I could do my thing. A lot of them are still at the same place where I was in school.
Yeah.
On the thing of, all right, I'm doing a little juggling, I'm doing a little this, I'm doing a little that.
And you're saying that is one of the things that leads to the breakdown, that leads to why we have so many issues. Because the reality is that transition, and nobody, the only person who may tell you is your father, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
That transition from boyhood to is so hard.
Bruv. It's challenging.
There's
so many different lessons.
I think challenging, like,
is that underselling?
It's underselling it. And as you're speaking, and as you said, you came from, you had, because always, you never had a single parent home. You had a dad at home. You with me?
Yeah.
Like, I know your dad.
Yeah.
You with me? I know, you grew up amongst. I grew up with him, uncle. You get me?
Yeah.
So, us underselling, as you said, how hard that process is, specifically with the additional, I don't want to say that word, the additional
challenges around race.
with race, yeah.
To reality, bro.
Yeah,
I don't even think that's not even elephant in the room now. It's quite
yeah,
widely regarded. It's more difficult for black men in society than any other person in
yeah,
society to make it. It's hands down. Do you know what I mean? Like the George Floyds and the this and the that, or whatever it is,
yeah,
based on lockdown, and everyone have just made it very apparent for everyone to see. Like there's a different rule, there's a
yeah,
different rhyme or reason for a black man than there is for anyone else.
yeah, yeah. The
Don't get me
rule.
wrong, black women have it very
No.
difficult as well.
Black women have challenges.
And people, society, because this is not a race thing, yeah?
Yeah,
Society in general is tough. But speaking from a black male's
yeah. From a
perspective
male perspective,
and a black
and
male,
then a black male
yeah,
perspective,
yeah,
because
which is
I've
anecdotal for us,
yes, yeah,
yeah?
because I've seen it with a range of different
Ethnicities
groups,
and
yeah,
whatever, yeah,
so on and so forth. But where I see it particularly challenging, making that jump.
yeah,
And and I love the fact that you didn't, it's not an age thing,
mm,
it's a mentality thing.
yeah,
So as you said, you may have been lucky enough to kick on. I know what my driving force was
yeah.
having my child. I had my first child at 19.
So that kind of straightened you out.
That I knew
Mm.
it was make or break.
So,
And
but what was it, right? Because for me, it was a spiritual thing. I am comfortable, and I will talk about it. Yeah.
yeah,
But for you, in terms of so what you're saying, what it was for you that was that bridge for
yeah,
you to say, all right, now this is what it is. This is what I need to work with. Was the responsibility of knowing
yeah.
I'm now a dad.
So I was going through the motions. I went through the motions. Went to college. I
Yeah.
did my A levels. I
Yeah.
didn't do as well as I could.
Yeah. Yeah.
Resat some. Went uni.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, went to university. Got in, and while I was at uni, had my daughter. So I
Right.
was going through the motions of college to uni. But what
So road wasn't nothing that bothered you at all.
road? Yeah,
And I only say that because for me, I think it's an overarching thing that that most young black men have to make a decision on. For me, I think that is
the
if you
decision.
speak to 8 out of 10 black men. So I'm just
The
interested,
decision was made for me very early.
and it was made by others.
It was made by others. Yeah, the
Fine.
decision.
All right. Say no more. Say no
No,
more.
no, I'm happy to go into like.
Yeah.
Because of where I come from, and for want of a better phrase, my stock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the decision was made very early on
That's not for you.
to do everything because I was primed, like my
Yeah.
personality,
Yeah.
I can be quite open out
Yeah.
there. I'm a risk taker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm primed to go and do that.
Mm.
You with me? However, it was identified we can't afford for this young man to go down that road. So I would primarily say my mum, because of her. So when I was born, 84, by the time we got to like 86, 87, she started doing a social work qualification.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So with that kind of added knowledge of, raw, like, right, this is the circumstance that this youth is born into.
Mm.
Are you with me? The likelihood is he's going to turn out like this.
Yeah.
I have
She
to
was
do.
serious with that social work, bro.
I
She
have to
was
do
next level.
everything
Yeah.
in my power.
Yeah. So the tools, the tools. Your mum was equipped
Yeah.
with your family was equipped with the tools, basically, innit?
Yeah.
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 Okay. Cool.
They
I hear that.
fought.
Yeah.
So even though it was exposed to me,
Yeah.
it was never. Yeah, it wasn't really glamorized in the way that maybe it was glamorized to everybody else. It was glamorized, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
It was glamorized.
But it wasn't a hang up for you. Basically, it doesn't sound like it. So yeah.
I think less so. I think every
Right.
teenage boy
Yeah.
wants to belong.
Yeah.
And where
And the streets have got a pull.
the streets have got a pull of belonging.
Yeah. 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 100%.
Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't that. So by the time I got to university and I had my daughter, I realized there is no way on God. It's like almost I went over and above.
Yeah.
I had to prove that I was going to be the best dad ever. I wasn't going to be whatless.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't stereotype me with the stereotype of black dad, whatless. It wasn't going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
So that to this day has been my driving force. And then as I got older, what I realized is enough of the youths that I grew up with, it's their parents who bust them and gave them opportunities. These are youths who weren't necessarily from the black community. So, you know, I went football with some, I grew up with a lot of kind of Greek, Turkish guys. And I realized once they got to that kind of phase,
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, that's a whole different podcast.
You say it's a different podcast.
That's a whole different podcast.
But
Because then what we're doing there is we're talking about the strength of community, nepotism, being able to pass things down, business.
So my drive was
so on and so forth.
I want to be in a position to create, for one of nepo, where a nepo baby, where my daughter can say bang, bang.
Boy, it's overrated, bro. But yeah, go on. I hear you.
That was my drive, because that's what I saw with young my peers from other races, and it was like, oh, raw.
So that was your bridge. Yeah. Okay.
But not to say I didn't have challenges. It was very challenging.
Yeah. I think my bridge was, so for me, I had an experience. I became very spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the time I was, proper Bible bashing Christian, yeah.
Which was that 19?
Yeah, but it was funny, right? Because it was a very personal thing to me. So even though you would have seen me and I would have been on the road, and for a period of time I would have still been, bunning my zoots and out doing whatever it was, I just kind of felt like I was raised in the church.
Yeah.
I kind of rebelled against it, and then it's like in that whole transition of now being out of school and being alone, very alone, because my parents are very, very active, but they were working in it. They were hustling to make sure that there was a future.
Yeah.
So, single child more or less, because my sibling is much older. Yeah, it was quite a lonely experience. It's very isolating. Do you know what I mean? So that, and kind of pushing back against the faith thing, I felt very kind of very alone. Do you know what I mean? But once I re-engaged with my faith, it kind of like was like, okay, cool. And then what I realized is I had a lot of insecurities, and I had to be more comfortable in being who I was. Do you know what I mean? Just like little things that I think, and this is again like reflecting as a big man who's done all of that. This is what that David Harewood thing kind of really made me like put everything in under the lens. Like just little things, innit? Like you might be conscious about the way that you look. You conscious about, for me, I had eczema or whatever it was. You get me? So I was conscious about, boom, got eczema every now and again. I got a breakout, blah blah blah, or just different things. But you know what I found that once I became really comfortable in my own skin, bro, it was like
it was a breeze.
Bro, I felt like the guy on Limitless. Yeah, like I felt like I was an XC390 or whatever it is, bro. It was like I could see the code, and it's funny as well, right? And this is what you realize as well. I see it with kids. Once you're comfortable in yourself, it sets off like this magnetism in it, because everyone realizes like you're being authentic.
You're an individual. Yeah, you are your individual self, authentic self. Yeah,
there's no kind of, you know what I mean? Like that's cool, and it draws everyone to you, kind of thing, you know. So things kicked off from that. So for me, the bridge was becoming comfortable with myself. I have to talk about the spirituality of it, or even though the whole Christian thing took on different guises. Do you know what I mean? Because man started to get into the knowledge and do different things. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was that I can't leave that out, because for me it was vital. So for me it was kind of the spiritual element, as well as kind of becoming comfortable with kind of overcoming insecurities and whatnot.
So I love that. Let me, because again, maybe I've got an insight into the youth that you don't. Because what I fight against, and I'll say it, the social media thing, and I'll speak to parents about exposing your children to all of these ideas, because my theory is, once you're not your authentic self, you're always trying to buy it. You're always trying to find it, and oftentimes that's commercialized.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a parent or a youth, a young man watching this, or one of the same student I was talking to, about tips on being your authentic self and finding that and being comfortable with it? Because a lot of youths, if you're not this archetype, you ain't got a coat, you ain't got the trainers, the jeans, or whatever, you can't be your authentic self, or they don't feel comfortable in their own skin. What would you say? Would you say it is through faith? Would you say it's through a combination of faith and education? And when I say education, I don't necessarily mean schooling. I mean like reading exposing yourself to different knowledge and.
Well, it's funny, right? Because I would say that, but that's my personality, right?
Yeah.
I like to read and so on. Not everyone. It's not for everyone. If I was just speaking to the masses,
Yeah.
if it's to a young person, I would be like, all right, well, just understand that there's a process to it. So what was really helpful for me, my dad was, like, I won't say my dad was a roadman because my dad was a hard-working dude, right?
Yeah.
But he was probably had more of a road background than I had. You get what I'm saying? Innit?
Yeah.
So at one stage, I remember in and around this time. This is after I became kind of like very confident. I was outgoing, and I was starting to win. The tables are turned now. Yeah, working, I'm earning money, and whatever. So, but we took a drive in the ends, and for some reason, my dad was just like, "Oh, you see that brother over there? Boom, used to go to school with him. He was a wicked pickpocket back in the day. He used to have. I'm looking at him now, bro, and man was folded. You understand? Catty. You know what I mean? Next person, yeah, and I knew this person because I knew this was someone's uncle, whatever it is, but he was a bit catted out, whatever. He was like, yeah, back in the day, proper armed robber. Yeah, smashed it. This man, wicked drugs, man. And we would literally just go in down the high street, bro, right? And we must have encountered 4 or 5 people on this little trip that he'd pointed at. And I looked at all these men and they were folded, and I was just like, this thing don't work. Like, you gotta kind of like have a little bit of a different kind of plan. So that done it for me because I was able to identify that certain things are a journey, and what necessarily looks good right now in the short term don't necessarily have that longevity. Do you know what I mean? In terms of the road thing, right? So I would probably say, I say all that to say this, I would probably say to young people, you gotta understand that it's a process. It takes time. It takes time. Have a plan, stick with your plan, and just know that, although your P's and whatever might not be saying what they are right now, as you work and you go through school, there's going to be a change. And there's going to be a time, trust me, if you stick to the plan, where you're going to be doing your thing.
See, the thing is now, like, I hear that.
It's hard for a young person
It's
to
very,
digest that.
not even a young man, because even though we're talking, we can sit here and identify big man, our age, in our phone books, and they're not even computing that. They're not computing. Listen.
But this is why. But this is the reason why I'm saying to you, bro, that I've been blessed to excel, right, for a period of time, right, as have you, and but we live in a bubble. So a lot of the times we don't really realize how hard that transition period is difficult, bro. A lot of people are still having challenges with it now.
It's only
it's hard.
It's only since being married,
that you've realized that.
My wife teases me. She's like, I'm privileged. She'll constantly, because her upbringing is different to mine. Means I'm a privileged little youth, like little Lord Fauntleroy kind of thing. And
Jimmy Bigglesworth.
And it's why I often don't comment. Because it may not have been financial, but what I was exposed to gave me a privilege where certain suffering never reached me, certain questions never reached me. And I may look at the brother and he's still trying to lick a shot. He's still trying to, like, the big move.
Yes.
The big, like, he's still trying to, as what I said, I still try fire shot, bring something in, get something true. And man's looking at him like, what? Like, are you serious?
But it's different. But look, it's a different journey for all of us, right? And we endeavor to be extremely humble. We're not judges or whatever. Definitely. That's what I'm saying to you, bruv. It's hard. It's hard.
It is.
Yeah, because
and even when you get there, even when you supposedly get there and you have made it, there's still a struggle.
Well, some of us are never even going to make it. So you get me?
It depends what your made it looks like.
There's gradients there's levels, right? Yeah. There's levels to that. So it is what it is. I wouldn't necessarily say that I've made it. I'm still very much on the journey, right? But yeah, it's difficult, bro. So when we talk about mental health in our community, I think that we underestimate because we're all so wrapped up in trying to make it, like we just discussed, that we don't realize how much people need support.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would put it to you that in society in the UK, black men probably need more support than anyone else. We don't show it.
Yeah.
Do you get me? Because it's very much like I said to you with that mental health advert, right? It's very kind of
Masked.
you watch that advert, and I'm waiting for the guy who's sitting down, bent up to drop out or there to be some kind of issue. And that was a really hard hitting advert. And then when the smiley guy's gone, I was like, wow, isn't that so true?
And oftentimes we see this, especially now with social media, we see this bravado out there.
You hit
blah
the nail on
blah
the head.
blah.
I was just going to say that. Not even with social media. I was just going to say in general, with most black men, there's a lot, well, men in general, but I guess we'll narrow in on this conversation just to black men, yeah? There's a lot of bravado. There's a lot of bluster. There's a lot of, when you speak to everyone, everyone's doing well.
Everyone's making
Everything's
money.
going. Everyone's ripping. Everyone's on top.
And that's impossible.
It's like, I get it because no one wants to look vulnerable and weak. But the reality of it is we need support and it's a challenge.
So do you think we need to start being more vulnerable amongst ourselves, amongst our peers then?
No, definitely not. That's not what
I'm... Why you shut that down quick?
Yeah, no.
Why not? I'm going to challenge you on that one. Why not? Why shouldn't we learn to be vulnerable? Because how are we going to break this stigma if we're not vulnerable? You've been vulnerable here today.
I've been vulnerable, but
and that has helped. That's helped me. That may help one other person who watches this.
Because all right. So let me add some structure and that bones to that vulnerability. Yeah, I think that being vulnerable in that sense, if you have an experience that you can relate to someone. I remember, for example, one time I went to one seminar, right, by a guy who mentored me for a short period of time. Yeah. He kind of fell off or whatever, but he was a really lovely guy and he was doing things at the time, right? Actually, anyway, that's a different story. But in that we had like a little group, and there was a couple of brothers, and they were sharing, and they were talking about relationships, and they were talking about, cheating and telling the wife that they cheated or whatever it is, and boom, 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 and bam, 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 whatever it was, right? And different men were talking about financial struggles. It was like a locker room environment. Those lessons or those conversations sitting down as a younger man at the time, I'm going back about 20 years, bro. Do you get me? Like, they were valuable. Do you get me? Like, to see, okay, boom, because I've never heard these conversations before, right? Kind of like your sauna experiences, right? So what I'm saying is, if you've got an experience that you can share, and be vulnerable in that moment but it's going to help someone, you know what, bro? I spent some time in jail, and during that period, this is what I learned. Boom, boom, boom. If you can do something, try and not go behind the wall. Whatever it is, however that relates to your experience, bro, 100% I'm for that. What I'm not for is this kind of wet vulnerability, like in terms of like, you kind of got to embrace your feminine side or whatever it is. I'm not on that. I'm old school. I'm traditional. I'm very much on fortitude. I think that we need to develop mental fortitude, and it sounds like a bit of a contradiction, but it's not. What I'm saying to you is that life is tough, and we need to be tough. We need to check out for one another, but not necessarily be on this kind of
like. You know what? I hear what you're saying.
Ultra vulnerability. I need it. All right, let me
before I
go.
hear you, because
I got a point.
The reason why I'm going to interject before we wrap up, is I've realized that.
Let me cut you quickly.
No.
Let me cut you quickly. Let me cut you quickly.
You have to make me finish.
Just on this point. Because it's there.
What
I was going to say to you is, what I've noticed, I've seen, and I'm going to say it kind of coded because I'm not trying to throw no one under the bus here. But what I've noticed very recently is I've got a few people who've been saying, "Oh, I'm this, I'm that," and it's like, bro, why are you so quick to run to this label? Do Do you understand?
Yeah.
Like, are you looking for an excuse? Are you looking for a get out of jail card? You get me? Was this a chance card thing? Community choice?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I mean. I think society now, through, I don't know whether it's malevolent or benevolent or whatever it is, however it is that they're operating, there's all these labels floating around that didn't used to be there back in the day.
They were there, but maybe
no, they weren't there.
No,
they weren't there. Life was serious.
Hold on. They were there. I understand what you're saying, and I'm somebody who, because of my upbringing, because of my culture, believes wholeheartedly in fortitude. Yeah,
right.
Believes wholeheartedly in holding firm, and however,
you might be misreading what I mean by fortitude, though.
I've become aware that isn't necessarily the best thing for my mental health.
Go on.
Holding that line.
Give me some more. Expand on that.
Holding that line and holding those principles. Yeah. I.e., the same thing we're talking about as men. The reality is, you've got that. Is it that atlas where we got the world on our shoulders, and when
and everyone's buying you on your back.
That's the reality of life, and you have to hold it. And if you can't firm that, you aren't a man, or you're not strong enough, or so on and so forth. These are a lot of ideas that culturally, specifically coming from like a Black Caribbean perspective, as a man, you have to be
But I'm with that.
Hold on.
My caveat is, you might need a break. You might need to go and drink some water. But once you've had your water and you've had something to eat, you need to come back and pick up that world and be Mr. Atlas.
Hold on.
That's what time it is.
But not, and the reality is,
if not, who is going to do it?
Exactly. But not everybody is built to do that.
We're all built to do that.
And if
we might need support.
Hold on. No. Not everyone is built to do that. Not everybody has the emotional fortitude to do it. Yeah? Because in society, you have different ranking. If everybody was built to do it, then everybody would do it. But they're not. But you're told in some respects that you have to do it. And if you don't, that is now where you've got man at 40 who are stuck because they've been given this idea of what it is that you need to do, what it should look like.
Yeah.
And it's not in them to achieve that.
So this is an interesting conversation because we've got two different viewpoints on it, right?
Yes, we do.
I'm saying for that guy who's stuck, who didn't make the transition, that person, similar to what you were saying, we need to be more loving and kind to one another, in the sense of, that's not necessarily being, I wouldn't class it as being vulnerable, but it's more kind of each one teach one. Yo, if I can say to another guy who's at my age, at 18 and struggling or whatever, yo, you know what, bro? Allow the shotting thing, man. Like, come, like, get your CV together. I got a thing. Like, be persistent. Do you get me? Like, keep shopping your CV out there until you get a job or whatever. I don't even know if they use CVs nowadays, you know what I mean? Or whatever. It's all online application. But the equivalent or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Or, you know what, bro? Go and do an apprenticeship. Go and get on the tools. Go and speak to XYZ. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about having that kind of like looking out for one another in that sense, yeah? However, I'm still saying that where we disagree is I'm from that more traditional standpoint, and I'm saying, you know what? As men, it is our role to be the defender, to be the Atlas man, then holding it all up, because that's what the man is supposed to do. If you need a break and you need some support and you need some signposting to help or whatever it is to upgrade your skills to be in that position, but ultimately your position, your role,
I disagree,
is to be the Atlas man.
I don't think that is every man's role. I don't think
so. Those men who it's not their role, what is their position then?
There are multiple things in life.
No. What is their position?
Hold on.
Don't try and skate out of it.
No. You can't snooker me, mate. Yeah, we've been doing this for years. Yeah, I know every one of your tricks. Yeah?
You're snooking already, bro.
Don't try it. Every man cannot play that role. Yeah, and in society, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't, because some men ain't built like that.
But you're coming like Scar at the Lion King. Them men are like they're outcast then.
So listen, they're not even
You're an outcast.
It doesn't have to be outcast.
If you can't defend the team,
this isn't a
you can't have the flowing lion's mane and be bathing and all of that. You're not in the pride. You're in the.
Let me have my drink.
What do they call it? The dark lands or whatever.
No. Because what that does,
go on,
it leads back to exactly what you said, where you've got man who, because
that are in that
who
lost song.
who are lost, because that might not have been your role. All right, all right. You'll probably hear me reference this 1,000,001 times. Yeah, a film filmed in 1972.
Godfather.
Starring
Classic.
Marlon Brando. You'll hear me reference it.
So many times I watched The Godfather, bruv. Yeah.
I think we first. Yeah. I think I lent it to you or you lent it to me. This is what we used to do when we were kids.
You told me about it, and you was reading the book.
Yes.
You was reading the book where he was in school, but I've just become infatuated by.
Not every man is a Don.
Not every man is a
Not
Don.
every man is. Not every man is the Don.
But every man should be the Don of his family. And every man is the Don of his family. Hold on. But there can only be a certain few Dons. I'm not talking about the Don of all Dons. Okay. You know what? This is going to get lost on people who don't know the references.
All right, hold on. Not every man. All right. When I'm going to go back. Bob Andy has a song, yeah? Where he talks about the more you give to life is the more you can get from life. And it says
come on to the 70s, man. Come on, Bob Andy. Come on to the 70s, man.
Not every man
can
be the boss. Not everybody. Everybody has different roles, but the problem with enough man is if I can't be the boss, if I can't be that guy, then the whole thing crumbles. Maybe your job was to be a soldier. Maybe your job was to be a 35 grandie, but you're going to be comfortable. Coming back to what you say. No, I'm not going to stop. Hold on. Hold on.
You're conflating two different things.
Let me land.
All right, go on.
Let me land.
Land your plane. Go on.
Listen, because that is what throws enough man off, where they believe if I don't have X, if I haven't achieved Y, these arbitrary
metrics.
Yeah. I'm coming back to your point. Be comfortable, and I think that's the point.
In
who you are, and you may not be that guy. You may not be
what guy?
The guy who is capable.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is archetypes.
Okay.
Yeah, and what I'm saying to you is that. Sorry, excuse me. I'm not saying that every man needs to be the Don, or he needs to be flashy, or needs to have things or whatever. That's totally abstract or different.
Away from your point.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to stop you. What I'm saying to you is that I believe that every man has a archetype, a set predestined archetype, and that is you are supposed to be the defender. You're supposed to be for lack of a better word, and going through all of these different topics. You're meant to be the Don of your little setup.
Of your team.
Yeah. Your little
nucleus. And that may not look like your team.
That may not even include a female yet, because you may not have been matched with someone yet. You may not have found your female yet. But once you've ultimately fulfill your destiny, your purpose, and you find the right partner and you build a family, you're supposed to be the Don of your team. And what does that mean? You're supposed to lead the line. You're supposed to carry the can. The buck stops with you. You can't run behind your girl and be like, oh, well, you know what, things are not working out. Oh, I need a pillow day today. Do you get me? I need a whatever you call it, bro.
Mental health day.
I need no, not mental health day. Don't try it.
I nearly got you.
No, but you know what I'm saying to you, bro? Society's become that kind of way, yeah. And even if your workplace may give you a mental health day, then yeah, the reality of it is that we need to be more robust for life as men. I don't go into that kind of realm of, oh, we need to be super vulnerable, but I do appreciate that life is tough and that we all need support.
All right, listen.
So I'm not trying to conflict the two things.
Yeah.
But you know what? Sometimes life ain't really, how can I say it, as easy as we'd want it to be. Yeah, it's tough, but it is what it is, right?
I'm gonna wrap up by saying,
go on, give me it's final thoughts, yeah?
Yeah, kind of thing. I hear what you're saying, but I think it can be quite dangerous when we say as men
that you got to be tough.
Not that you got to be tough. I'm perfectly fine to be able to articulate my own points.
Right, go on, sir.
Are able to, in essence, be vulnerable, and it's okay to be vulnerable, because
no, I agree with that.
In being vulnerable, there's a sense of strength in that. And the problem is, there's some men and big men who we've seen who have left that too late. You know, like, man, where, you know what? If I kind of put my ego aside and I was vulnerable, I might have my family. if I was vulnerable, I might have a relationship with my kids where my kids would understand who I am. But you know what? I'm lonely. I've done this, what in my head I believe to be robust and macho and tough, or any of the adjectives you want to use.
Yeah.
And it has actually been to my detriment. It's been to the detriment of myself, primarily, the people around me. And I just see it as a cultural thing where, and that's the only thing I'm gonna, where I would say I disagree. That element of vulnerability is absolutely fine. And in actual fact, it's something I think we need a bit more amongst ourselves as men, to be a bit more vulnerable and a bit more kind.
Because I feel like that as well. I was just trying to do the devil's advocate.
Oh, you're just trying to do
get you out of your.
No, so you no, because
obviously,
see what would happen.
Obviously, man's got to be vulnerable. Come on, on, bro. What do you think? This is the 70s.
This is Rum and Reasoning. We're gonna wrap it up for this session. You got a little bit of flavour of what it's about. Remember, we've got the Bayesian rum,
4 squared.
Spice rum, 4 squared, with natural flavours. You can get this online, or you can get this in any of your. I love the way you said that. Hood. What do you say? Hood specialist off license.
Yeah.
So Harry's.
No. Well,
Harry don't do it. Harry don't do it.
Harry might have that. Harry's in Edmonton. There's another great one on Stroud Green Road. I'm showing that we're from North, right? Yeah. There's another great one on West Green Road.
Yeah.
That are all kind of like
Hackney, the one in Hackney.
Rum specialist. There's another great one on Stokey High Road as well. But they're just like very specialist.
If you know where the good ones are in West London, or South London, put them in the comments, because you can tell we're North Londoners. All right, let's wrap it up. Beautiful. Appreciate the honesty. Rum and Reasoning. This is our first episode. We're good to go.
Be vulnerable, boys.
Done.